Okay, if you're coming to Jamestown, Virginia, I just want to make sure you are aware there are two different locations that are vastly different from each other, and we're going to be looking at Jamestown Settlement today. Okay, we are at Jamestown Settlement, which is about a mile or so away from historic Jamestown, the original site where all of the colonial history actually took place. And just to get this up front and out of the way, this is a reproduction site. Everything you see here is a reproduction, and it's not in the exact location where the original Jamestown fort or Jamestown was actually at. If you want to see that, that's historic Jamestown. It's right down the road, and this one's geared more toward kids. Before we get to this part where we are here, there's actually a museum on the inside that you pass through first, but unfortunately you're not allowed to film or take pictures inside there. And it's got some recreations of artifacts, things that would have been used at the time, and that sort of thing. Okay, it's this way towards the outdoor exhibits, and we'll just walk on down there now.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. You're entering a recreation of a Paspahegh town. And the Paspahegh Indians were part of the Powhatan Federation of 32 plus tribes in English time. They call their houses Yahagans. You can go in, take a look around, and if you have questions about it, you please ask.
Great, thank you.
As you know, you can take as many pictures as you want.
Great, thank you.
Enjoy.
Not sure how much of that you was able to catch, but they are up front that it's everything. This is a recreation here. And this is the village of the Native Americans and how it was imagined to have looked at the time, and some of the things that they have going on here with weaponry, and they have guides that kind of tell you a little bit about each thing you see on display here. And over here you have some of the housing itself. Let's just take a peek inside of a few of them, see what they look like on the inside. I also like to mention, if you're not from Virginia or the South in general of the United States, perhaps you're from another country, but it is very hot down here in the summertime, so you have to keep that in mind. I'm filming this in August. It is about 93, 94 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's about 34 degrees Celsius or centigrade. So just keep that in mind. Prepare yourself for some extreme humidity, because it's not just the temperature, it's the humidity is very high, which makes it seem even more unpleasant. Make sure you bring bottles of water too. That's essential.
That's amazing. I'm sure it's a boat, you don't think?
Okay, exiting the village portion, and now we're going to walk over to the docks where they have replicas of the 3 ships that brought the original Jamestown colonist over. And we'll go take a good look at those. As I mentioned a moment ago, it's very hot today, so it's good to see they have some shady portions that you can get out of the sun if you need to. And this is one of them. This is the walk as we're going down towards the dock. Okay, you'll notice we're coming up on 3 ships. The largest, which is that first one, that is a Susan Constant. And then the other 2 smaller ones, the Godspeed and the Discovery. Now, the actual ships left London December 20th, 1606. Took them 4 months to cross the Atlantic. There was 105 passengers total and 39 crew members. And I think the breakout for who was on what ship, there was 71 on the largest of the ships, the Susan Constant, 52 on the Godspeed, 21 on the Discovery. And they got to Virginia in late April. Took them a little while because to get up to what is ended up being their final destination at Jamestown. They did a little bit of exploratory cruises up the inner waterways to see what would be a good site, kind of out of sight from the Spanish should any ships go by. And after they were placed into where they were going, the Susan Constant went back to England, and the other 2 smaller ships stayed here, and they did work in the Chesapeake Bay area and around these parts. It may be different when you arrive, but it looks like the first 2 ships you can actually go aboard, and the third one down on the end is roped off, where you can take a picture of it from the dock, but you can't actually go on it. I believe usually if they've got enough staff down here, they'll have all 3 ships where you can go aboard and take a look. But the 2 on the end here, they are much smaller than I would have imagined for an ocean crossing. So I can't imagine it being too pleasant on these 2 ships for sure. Okay, the one here in the center looks like we can go on that one, so let's check it out. It looks like the kids are getting a demo on how sails are brought up and down. Yeah, not a large vessel by any stretch, especially for an ocean crossing. Good view of the Susan Constant there up in the front. We'll go on that one next. Now, luckily, it's not too crowded today. We're in mid-August now, and the crowds are starting to die down for the season. It obviously gets busy during the summer months, June to August, and kind of dies down a little bit later after that. So let's go on, and yeah, right off the bat, you could see as you're coming on board, this one's considerably larger in width and length. That's a very nicely done replica. A bed over there. Looks like sleeping quarters on both sides. And looking at these ships and others of the period, I would say people were a lot shorter back then, probably due to nutritional habits being poor. Yeah, that would be very cramped for modern day folks who are a bit taller. I think the other two ships were smaller, and they planned it that way so they could use them for the inner waterways branching from the Chesapeake Bay. They weren't sure how deep they were, and that allowed them to travel in shallow water should they come upon it. Good view of those up there. All right, let's make our way below deck. There's a stairway going down there. Let's see if I can get to the bottom without falling with this camera. It's a rather steep staircase. Cannon emplacements.
So you're right behind it. And it goes this way, really fast. Is this going to stop? No. So, the big question is, which meaning way? Including the gun carriage, this is about 1,000.
Now, the captain in charge of bringing these ships over, well, I guess he would have been an admiral. He had more than one ship. It would have been Christopher Newport. There's a town not too far from here that bears his name today. All right, let's head back up. Kind of crowded down here.
We do suggest you turn around backwards and use that as a ladder. The stairs is home.
All right, heading up to the James Fort replica. And did I mention it's hot out here? I believe I did. That's tobacco on the left and corn on the right. Two crops that were probably fairly common during the Jamestown early days. A guy named John Roth, who ended up marrying the Native American Pocahontas, he was credited for coming up with a new strain of tobacco that was very popular in England. But when they came over, they thought they would get rich from silver and gold, but turned out to be tobacco is what made this place profitable. Hello. Thank you. Okay, coming into the fort, I'm thinking that is the governor's house straight ahead. And if you look at any maps of the original fort, and I believe that's the chapel right there, or the church, the barracks. So the buildings aren't quite accurate to the placement and layout of the original Jamestown fort. And at the other site, archaeological digs have kind of pinpointed where everything was at. They can still see the shadows where the poles were in the ground as they dig down. This is what they imagine that they would have looked like on the inside. Minus the concrete floor, which I guess they need that for the amount of tourists that trample through here. It would be a muddy mess during the rainy times. But I would imagine the original buildings probably were dirt floor. And I'll go ahead and throw a map of the layout of the original Jamestown up on the screen so you could see that. And with that, you'll be able to see some of the building placements. They do a lot of neat hands-on and some demonstrations. They do musket firings on the ships. You saw how they show you the rigging for the ropes and the sails and that sort of thing. And off as we came in to the left, I don't know if you saw it, but they got a guy baking some stuff over there in a period oven. I'm not sure what you would call that, but
But it happened once before in recorded history, in the early 19th century. Roll down and sail all the way to the Pacific Ocean north. Happened before. That's why the modern Coast Guard is making fleeting icebergs. We have about 20 up there. It's opening up again. But yeah, so it's possible. It's just not always there. It's not reliable. That's what they're hoping for. There's only one way to find out. We know now that there's not, a river in the Great Lakes.
If I told Paul it is raining, the English, they know how to keep slow match going in the weather, and they know how to, supposedly know how to keep their powder from getting too wet. But let's slow match in with powder.
Deer skin for the glovers industry, beaver fur for the hat making industry, beaver cod for the perfume industry. They're fishing sturgeon out of the rivers. And isinglass.
all right. This is the inside of the church. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
That is a fancy bed. All right, let's check the rest of the house out here.
But either way, you're gonna cut off all the light below there, so don't bleed out relative. Right? Once he's done that, he will then move in with this big knife here to cut through all the upper tissues, the skin, all the stuff around the muscle, right? All the soft stuff. He uses this knife to get to cut through. Once he's got through all that tissue, he then uses a knife like this to cut through the rest of the tissue. So the muscle tendons, specifically the bones, and through the bone. The entire time he's doing that, as he's cutting through all the this, I'm using to
Okay, I guess I'll wrap this video up before it gets too long. But in closing, let me say this. If you got kids and you want to show them what life was probably like back in the 1600s, this is pretty neat to show them. I know a lot of the schools bring children here on field trips, and it's great fun for them to see all this stuff, I'm sure. Now, if you're wanting to see something historically accurate, though, go another mile down the road and see the historic Jamestown. You won't see buildings standing like this. In fact, there's only one original building down there is standing, and it's been partially rebuilt, and that's the church that's on the side. But it's the real deal, and it's exactly where it was at. So if you want to stand on the same ground that John Smith and all those folks were at, yeah, that's the one you want to go to. This one's great for kids, and the other one I would recommend for adults. If you had to see just one. If you can see both, well, that's great. Yeah, they're definitely both worth seeing. And they each have their own highlights, but I'm more for the historically accurate myself. All right. We'll close it up with a shot of the governor's house, which I think that's the governor's house, judging by the fancy bed.